Okay, so I think we're ready to start. Awesome. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. My name is David Sakamoto. I'm the Vice President of Customer Success here at GitLab. And it's now my 6th week. So it's been an absolutely fantastic experience. Just a couple quick references. I did post the presentation, and I put in a short 10-minute introduction video. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, they're in the meeting invite. And if you have any questions, there's a customer success channel. If you happen to have questions after the meeting, the customer success channel that we can answer additional questions if any come up after this discussion. So to kick it off, I'll start with the questions that are in the Google Doc. And if you have any questions about a specific slide, if you just make sure to note which slide you have a question about. And I'll start going through the questions as they pop up. So first, I'll just cover. So thank you, Sid. Trevor. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. We'll make sure to post the video in the company announcements next time. So excellent comment. Learning. So one thing I'd ask is kind of side note.
So yeah. David, in these calls, we tend to verbalize the questions. So people watching just the YouTube, they don't have to guess what the question was. So I'll verbalize it for you. The question is, what have you learned during Contribute?
Excellent. Wow, great question. You know, there was a handful of things. I would actually say it was the experience of connecting with the team is probably the thing I got out most. So it was a fantastic opportunity for me to engage the community. And I would say the community being the employees of GitLab, but I also had a really good time connecting with some of the contributors of Core. So that was really fantastic. And one of the key things I really enjoyed and learned about was a question for me is kind of what motivates people to contribute, and how can we, how can we help facilitate and encourage and make it a great experience. So I would say of the pieces that come out, both the engaging and having conversations directly with the contributor, but also getting feedback around how do we make sure it's easy, how do we make sure we're paying attention to the contributions, and how do we encourage people to contribute? So that was probably one of my key takeaways. But beyond that, I would say that the broader experience that I had was connecting with the people was really extremely valuable. Our cultural values are very strong, and it's one of the things I love about GitLab. But the piece that I really experienced was getting to connect with the people, building relationships, and actually seeing how all those values are really instilled in the whole team, and also seeing how, and having some availability to have regional differences, because everybody has a cultural difference. So how do they, engaging and having conversations with folks around how the different, macro and micro cultures were interpreted by the different folks. I'd say the last piece is, and one of the conversations that I have a lot of passion about is how do we focus on culture as we grow and scale? And I really learned some really insightful feedback on how do we keep our values top of mind in some areas, or how we can do a better job making sure that we're role modeling it, making sure we're talking about the values, and being transparent, and where we need to continue to improve. So those are, again, a couple of key things that I really enjoyed and learned about was, again, connecting with the contributors and the community, really experiencing and building relationships with the team, and really talking through how do we preserve our values and culture as we grow. So I'll move on to, and Sid, thank you for the suggestion. One thing I was going to ask for the broader audience, I really appreciate when people give me guidance and feedback, because I'm still getting my sea legs of the GitLab way. So let me make sure I verbalize the next question. So Sid.
Yeah, so that's a hint about work in progress. And it's a bit of a misnomer, because things are a work in progress. But if we'd label everything in GitLab that is a work in progress, we'd have that on every single document and every single web page. So it's like the old internet. We have under construction on every web page. So work in progress we only do if merging it would lead to a problem. So in your case, it's a presentation. You can't even merge it. So there's no need for work in progress. We understand it's a draft. It's the best version we have.
Awesome. Thank you. I will definitely take it out. I think I put it in there very beginning when it was still crude, but I agree. Everything's work in progress, and that's part of our values, iterating. So effectively, everything is work in process. Excellent comment. Thank you, Sid. Philippe, I'll move on to the next question. How can we improve communication between departments, especially in engineering and CS? Excellent question. So this is very top of mind for me, and I'll answer it a little bit with a philosophical answer, and then I'll answer it direct. Because I look at customer success as, we have a customer success team, and we're accountable for a number of things that are in terms of driving both the value realization or solution validation during the sales process as part of the solution architects, implementation or professional services, as well as the TAMs. But really, to do customer success properly, we need to build a system kind of orchestrating value across all the value. Everybody contributes to delivery of value to our customers. And so, we need to build, and I would actually expand both kind of processes, but also communications with the respective teams. And I think when I look at, one of the observations, I think there's great collaboration, but I think we can do a better job of helping each other. So I always start with how we can help. And so one thing is making sure that we're making the right effort to bring the voice of the customer back to the product team. So I always look at, empathy around how can we help the team. And that's one observation I think we can do a better job in terms of how do we bring that voice of customer back to the product team in a way that's highly consumable, that doesn't have translations, very efficient. So I think there's some work that can be done there. And then on the flip side is making sure that we've got a clear approach and process where we need help for key customers, and making sure that if we have, for example, an escalated situation, that we're making sure we've got a clean process, we can articulate the value, the impact, the risk to the customer very clearly, and get to the right people really quickly so we can get the right help we need. So I think in terms of, in a certain way, I think the communications there, I would kind of look to how do we kind of build those process connections with those teams.
And David, if you can invite people to verbalize their question, it makes it it's a bit more fun for people watching.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
will be the last hint. Thank you.
Okay, no, Sid, please, I appreciate it. So, any other? Does anybody have any questions? You want to verbalize?
No, you can look at the doc and just invite Philippe or John. They're probably in the call because they put this in. So John has the next question. John, can you verbalize it?
Thanks, Sid. I saw that coming.
I see the question that was on the next page.
Yep, I saw that coming. I'm off of mute, so I'm ready to go. Hey, David, how do you see us evolving and developing our consulting and services to help guide customers in their transformation? Addressing all levels of the organization. How do executives drive and lead transformation? How do managers have to change? And then how do we help people from a technical perspective implementing and getting the greatest value out of GitLab?
Yeah. So excellent question. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. A couple things, right? I'm actually going to take some terms from Joel, so I want to attribute back because I really like the way he stated it. And he kind of had this kind of statement around kind of transitional services and transformational services. And the way that I kind of look at it is almost like layers, of a cake, right? And right now, if you look at our services, they're very solution oriented in terms of product level. And he kind of made those as transitional services. So you're kind of transitioning from, product A, B, and C to GitLab in the various stages that we bring to the table. And so that includes, deployment, configuration, migration, training. Very product centric. That's kind of transitional services. I think the next layer up is to kind of start to get into operational. So how do we start to look at operational best practices and how to help teams work together to really, because it's, it changes as you make that transition to DevOps, it changes the way that you do work and how you've done it, how you collaborate together. I'd say that the top level or the transformational, and I think you start to get into more organizational, cultural, it gets to be a much richer aspect of how it services. So the way I kind of looking at this, we kind of make sure that our base foundational services are mature, and we start to kind of move up the stack. Because I think that I look at that transitional service as a foundation that we've got to continue building on. So I look at it somewhat in those sense. We don't necessarily need to do it serially though. Like we're going to test and experiment things. We don't need to get everything finalized and done. We're going to be testing and starting to find opportunities, and we see some customers asking for it, so we're going to start testing and experimenting there. Okay. Fabian, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. So this is Fabian. I just joined the product team in the Geo segment, and I was wondering, with our sort of renewed focus on customer success and also customer results, how do we ensure that issues that are being surfaced by customers are, like funneled to the product team so that we can react appropriately and ensure that, their needs are met? Yeah,
great question. I actually would say, my observation, I don't think we have a renewed success. I'm new, but I would definitely say my observation is we have a very, we've been customer success focused, right? I think we've been customer success focused before I got here. So I'm, what I plan to do is build on the foundation and that the team built, I would say the organization. And so, there's still some work to be done to understand exactly how we're doing it. But the way I kind of look at it, I kind of like an operations kind of mindset, right? So the first thing is we've got a clean, you can't depend on conversations and these kind of things. Like I like to have a clean connection without translations, right? So for example, how we collect issues needs the map of how you consume issues, right? So I ran an engineering team. And one thing I learned, one of the things I learned from past experience, our support, I'm going to get pretty tactical here, but like our support fields around reason codes, components, and those kind of things were totally different than engineering. So it always required this translation. So some of the things are like kind of how do we systematically build stuff so things move really quickly and efficiently without translation. And then we've got the right cadence of, the information flows systematically. And then we probably have some cadence of making sure that we're able to highlight and clarify things as needed and help prioritize. So I think, I think some of those pieces are there. I think we have some more work to do. And again, it's a little bit of the, the other thing is I think it's kind of making sure the teams have empathy and really try to understand each other's business and problems so we can help each other.
Thank you so much for your answer.
Thank you. Welcome aboard, by the way.
Thanks.
Hayden, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Thanks, David. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Just wondering if you in your observations so far, you think there might be an opportunity or an opening for sort of more traditional customer success managers in the commercial sector and perhaps the lower end of enterprise.
Yes, absolutely. Great question. Thank you. And what I would say when you look at, if you look at the presentation on slide 3, that is kind of a generic. So kind of the approach is, we need to get something. So kind of iterate to get a version of a journey, but ultimately we're going to build segmentation specific journeys, right? And if you look at the lower in the market, frankly, just the economics are different. So I think there's always look at the world on two ways, the customer side and the company side. On the company side, which is I think most people think of down market, the economics are there. So we need a much more scalable approach to address the needs of those customers. But I also would say, and oftentimes I think people overlook, how those customers consume the product is also very different, right? So we need to be cognizant. Like if you almost, to some extent, some of these smaller customers, if you give like an enterprise approach, like I don't need all these meetings. I don't need all these QBRs. Like it's just, I'm a one-stop shop, right? I don't have time for that. So we got to balance both of those. What I would probably, I'd say probably, what I've did in the past is we need to have a much more digitally enabled engagement, either fully digitally enabled. So kind of taking the learnings that we have from our data and from our engagement and how do we build a digital journey for the low end of the market, or as you kind of move up, a hybrid digital engagement where we're leveraging a lot of technologies. A lot of times like Marketing automation. There's a lot of great things you can do in terms of leveraging technologies like that to drive a really engaging digital engagement. The product telemetry is going to be super critical in that space. Without telemetry, it's very challenging. So there's some work that we have to do in partnering with the product team to start building those data insights from the product. The other thing is I would say, and I haven't even explored this, is whether we start doing in-app type of messaging and things that would kind of help facilitate and drive adoption within app. So haven't dug in those, so I don't know what the plans are, but that's how I've kind of tackled some of those in past lives.
Got it. Thank you.
Rashad, thank you for your question.
Good morning, David. Thanks for doing this. So I guess I'm curious about how you understand the responsibility split between growing and serving accounts post-sales between customer service and sales.
Oh, excellent question. By the way, it was great to connect with you at Contribute.
Yeah, it was.
So great question. So one of the things, if you, on slide 4, one of the most important things is the RACI. I haven't seen any big problems jump out. I would say one thing that I think is renewal forecasting is probably an area that we need to get a little cleaner at. But ultimately, I would look at the team as, I would say the whole collective team is there to drive adoption. And philosophically, we're going to drive our revenue through driving value and a great experience for our customers and clients. And so I think the core job for us is to make sure that we drive that adoption, drive it with a great experience. And ultimately, we're earning that right to at renewals and we're adding more value to our customers. Now, as it relates to, I would think that the TAMs are ultimately having that accountability to drive that life cycle. And I think, the renewal is a question around who transacts renewal. Right now, the sales team does. So I would look at the responsibility that TAM is to tee up that frictionless renewal and also have an early warning system to make sure if we see warning signs or, troubled accounts that we have a really tight engagement with the sales team to go tackle those problems. We do have a triage process in place now, and one of our Q2 OKRs is to really get a little tighter in terms of how we articulate and track that, but also how we report it out so there's full visibility and we are ensuring that we can address, optimize on upside and on IACV, but also make sure that if there's any risk accounts that we're as a team going and attacking those.
So I guess I want to drill down on one point specifically in regards to like finding white space within the account. Is that more the role of the TAM or the account exec?
Yes. So let me explain what that yes means. So I think as the sales team is engaging, I think one of the things is we've got to really, I think this is another area for improvement is our stakeholder management. So who are the different personas with the, and I think one of the things is force management. So a little thing on force management is going to be looking at how do we manage that stakeholder map. Mm-hmm. But if you look at different stakeholders, you're going to have executives down to directors and managers and the end users, right? So I think the key approach is the account strategy and stakeholder map needs to seamlessly transition, as part of that transaction, post-transaction. We need to be managing that consistently as a team. And so I think there's some work to be done in terms of kind of the RACI for example, if you have an executive sponsor, how are we going to manage that process? I would expect ultimately the TAM to do that, but I think there's some work to be done there. I think the force management is going to be one area that we can, both the messaging and making sure that we're hitting the right points. As part of our journey, that's one of the key things that we're going to be doing as well. Is we're going to have a primary point of contact. And if you look at the slide, there's a little star in there to kind of show customer celebration points. So we're going to have certain triggers where we may be working with a director of tooling or maybe a director of development. When you hit certain milestones, we'll want to look at saying, hey, how do we make sure that we're having touch points with different parts of the organization? So that's definitely be a part of it. But I would say the question is, is a partnership of both. The sales team's kind of managing that, but we also need to be consistent managing that through the journey as well.
Great, thanks.
Latsi. Thank you for your question. Would you like to ask?
Hey, David. Yeah, thanks again for doing this and posting videos in Unfiltered. Yeah, I guess my question is, how do we be better ambassadors of asynchronous workflows? We are very much doing that with GitLab and our customers, but oftentimes at the leadership level, they're not there yet. And how do we bridge that? Are there lessons learned from previous experiences that maybe can be brought to bear here? Yeah, just curious to know what your thoughts are.
I'm going to be as humble as possible here. I need your help. So a lot of the ways we do this, I love it, but I'm learning. And so in a certain way, I'd actually say I don't bring more experience to GitLab of being asynchronous. This is I think, pursuits of being best in class and remote and working this. I need help. So I love Sid. And Sid gives me guidance and like during this call. I really appreciate that. And I actually ask that for everybody in the organization. If you see some areas where I can improve, I love that feedback. So I would actually say I'm not an expert. This is one area that I'm learning. I'm really enjoying it. I just had actually a call with an old Cisco colleague and do some coaching. And I was actually talking specifically about that, how I love the efficiency and the productivity when you show up, everybody's ready to roll, everybody's ready to get work done. So I would say I appreciate all the things done in terms of readiness, and I'm a learner as part of this. This is one area that I'm focusing on learning. So I'd actually kind of flip that around. Please give me advice. Please give me help, so I can improve and we can do it together.
Thank you.
Let's see, Sid. Oh, thank you, Sid. Verbalized. Thank you for posting the video. My pleasure. I
want to thank you for posting it. For everyone who want to use this kind of synchronous time where we're all together to do Q&A, and there's enough things people want to ask David or want to say. So it's awesome that he posted a video ahead. I want to thank you for that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to try to do a lot of these because I think from my past experience, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of in the market also, there's a lot of different understandings of what customer success is. So I'm going to try to, if you can't attend this, I'm going to start building a library to start explaining all the different components as we build them. So again, ask questions, tell me where we need clarification, and I'm going to try to start every one of these, start building up an inventory so people can view them and learn about what we're doing, and also give you an opportunity to contribute back and give advice on where we should be directed in terms of problems or priorities. Okay. I think we are all set. I'll just wait a quick second. Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions. So again, the customer success channel is there. So if you come up with any questions or those that were not able to participate and maybe you're watching this video, please use that customer success channel to ask additional questions. And thank you all so much for taking the time to connect. And I appreciate all the great questions and advice.
Thank you.
Thank you.